Welcome back, my fellow pink skins. That's the new term coined in Avatar 3, Avatar Fire and Ash.
Fire and Ash. Yeah.
Fire and Ash, which we've launched a lot of Avatar lately. They did foreshadow it really brilliantly because this movie has fire and ash in it. It's a big theme. And there's a lot of fire and ash in the other two movies, believe it or not. It's not a new concept to the Avatar world. Anyways, I'm here with Shay. We're in Toronto at the Screen Love Affair
Headquarters. Now.
headquarters.
We can call this the headquarters.
I call it the content creation headquarters because, like most Canadian companies, our actual headquarters is based in Montreal for tax reasons. But I'm the content curation office branch in Toronto, hence the revamped look. And anyways,
And this nice new sign. It's a beautiful new sign. Real neon.
real neon, definitely made in China.
Yeah.
And we're here and we've freshly seen both the last two avatars. I have my Avatar Way of Water cup. First of all, before we talk about the movie, because that's like important, I want to talk about the popcorn bucket situation.
There was like 5,
Yeah.
I think, or something like that. Plus like multiple cups.
Yeah, they had two different cup options that were the gripper, which if you're a longtime listener, you'll know I'm not a fan of the gripper cup. I like to have it like slottable into my other cups. Or with the gripper, they don't stack at all. Like you just have to display them. And the popcorn bucket, competing with the Galactus popcorn bucket of earlier this year, $80 for a literal riverboat worth of popcorn.
And it's a big, it's I think this, it's like this long kind of point to point.
Yeah.
But okay, this is crazy because the pricing, I really don't think they realized what they had potentially, with popcorn buckets as a concept. The Dune one went viral. They had them before, but not every time and not as consistently. The Dune one though, went viral.
Yeah.
And then that became a thing. And I remember I got the Mission Impossible ones just earlier this year. And I got 3 things. I got the cup, which had a pair of binoculars on the top, which by the way weren't in the movie. So I was it looked like a Wally leftover that they're we'll just put on the cup. But
Ethan Hunt would use it.
Yeah, exactly. And it was so it was the cup, the tin, and then the big light up one. It had the metal keys.
Yeah.
And it was the entity. And I paid, I think, for all of that $60. And I granted I have this in a close to get the 20% off, but still, and this single just this, just plastic, and then again, it is sizable, but I was $80.
Yeah. Well, earlier this year, I shelled out $50 for the Superman popcorn bucket. It wasn't even the most expensive one. I didn't get the newsstand or whatever. I got the one that was a little Superman laser beaming the popcorn kernels and you put your popcorn in it. And my favorite experience with that was I was there. Everyone was hype. It was a good atmosphere. A dad and his kids ahead of me bought it. And they're like, yeah, can you put the popcorn in the popcorn bucket? And they're like, sir, it's actually a liability. This is a toy you could choke on. We can't legally put the popcorn in your popcorn bucket you just bought for $50. And the dad was like, are you kidding? It's well, you can do it, but we can't do it for you, man. It's just you're raking me over the coals for this thing that you can't even use in the theater according to the staff. So
yeah. Well, and shout out to my boy Nick Chepley, who's constantly complaining about the fact that he's I just want a good kind of normal actual bucket.
A bucket.
There's got to be a more elaborate thing you can do that's something between this long ass Avatar one and just a tin bucket. There's got to be a more middle ground there where you can actually have something that's feasible and usable, because the worst bucket I would say that I've seen that I own as well is the DeLorean one.
Yeah.
It's functionally the doors slide out and you dude, I don't even know if I could fit some M&Ms in the door. It's useless as a bucket, but I'm yeah, whatever. I don't know.
See, that's the thing with the cup debate. I'm a big drinker, as you guys know, and I love
with an extensive cup collection. I gotta say, I'm here at SLA HQ here in Toronto, and he's got a massive cup.
I was it was having Shay over in my new place. It's a housewarming basically. And I'm just hold on, not to be autistic coded here. I pulled out all my collector's cups. I'm these are my Halo ones from the 7-Eleven launch. And this is from all these movies. Here's the Beyonce Knowles, Renaissance cup. And I was even saying I think that these are the optimal version. It's almost a liter size drink. But the thing I get about it is not a great movie, but it was the, I Know You Did Last Summer remake.
Mhm.
They had a cup that was like the slasher from the movie, and as it got cold, it would have like blood instead of clear. And I'm like, that's a great gimmick. That's perfect, like cheese and camp. Where the grippers are like, yeah, we just essentially it's like cake with fondant. We just
Yeah.
dress the heck out of this, and it's just like impossible to stack and clean. They're not machine washable. And then at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, I had this like toothless one from the How to Train Your Dragon movie, and I was like, I'm never going to use this. I don't. I should be able to like a display around here, but I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, long story long, I think they got to like simplify, like you said, with the popcorn bucket, get back to basics, get buckets that have fun theming, but don't go
do
over
a
the
bit
top.
more like because that one's just really like for this one. And I'm saying all this like I'm kind of shit talking the bucket, but when we came out of the movie, I looked at Ashley and was like, "Should I like?" She's like, "No, no." She was really she's checking me because
Yeah.
my instinct was to do it because I thought like because that we also come like they've been so rare,
Yeah.
right? Like when they sell out fast, like I freaked out when because
FOMO, you have FOMO.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to miss out on
Yeah.
this icon, you know.
And so like I was like, well, and then I'm like, yeah, no, for that price, like again, it's just kind of crazy. And literally it's just like one of the I forget what they're called now already after watching 3 of these movies last week, but like it's the thing they fly around on, but then it's just got like a basket in the middle. And it's just like, I don't know. Like I didn't like if I really wanted it, I would have pushed. I would have got it, but I was like,
What would have been good, like to go back to the Dune example, is a popcorn bucket where they have those like those whale gods, you know, one of those with their big mouths opening for the top. Like just use the Dune Sandworm prototype, and that would have made people go like, "Oh, I want the Avatussi popcorn bucket."
Well, like they like I feel like the Tukun. They could have done one of them, and especially because they're like massive. Like some of the ones in this ones are like our boy Pyakon from 2 is like way smaller compared to some of the matriarch, and which we'll get into. But then also the balloon thing. Granted, they only used the one, but that was one that I was thinking like that could have because you could have even had like the chariot part of it and everything. So I was like, I don't know. Conceptually, I just thought I'm like. Yeah, because even the flying things are like, yeah, they're in it, but it's not.
And they're
like
unique to that movie
moment.
too. Like we were joking about the Avatar world, and after seeing the third one like fresh last night, and rewatching the first one, I'm like, whoa, they used to have horses in these, like, because by the time you get to the third Avatar movie, everything is like, we need a bigger sky beast to fight a bigger mech suit, to get a bigger whale to fight a different, you know.
Well, let's dig into it because we. Beforehand, me and Ashley had rewatched 1 and 2 to get ourselves, primed and ready to go back to Pandora. And I think in part there was 2 things. One, I think it was good to do because it was like, refresh you on a lot of these little beats and plot points that came in. Cause like some of it, again, that part of the opening of 2 is just like 20 minutes, kind of 15 of like just like exposition recap to like set the table again.
Table dressing. Exactly.
And then, I think honestly, part of rewatching all of them, I will say, keeping it spoiler free right now, impacted my viewing of the third one a little bit because I think watching them like within all a week, basically, I think it definitely kind of like sucked a bit of the enthusiasm out where like, even the jump from 1 to 2, like, again, this is something we'll get into because I think like this is 16 years since the first one. And then I think it's only been like 3 years now between the second and third.
Yeah. And that gap felt like nothing. Like, I think the hype for the second one, I too was like on the hype train, where this one, I had like a dozen friends, especially you. They're like, we got to bookend our Christmas visit with Avatar. Well, before Christmas Avatar, it'll be a big like thing. And it was a big thing. Like we went to an IMAX in Vaughan, which is like one of the better IMAXs we have. Great crowd. There was people like taking selfies in front of us, like commemorating, like, I don't know, again, group gatherings, coming together in cinema to see Avatar. Like it was the premiere experience. But I like would be lying if I said I was like hyped. I was going into this movie being like, I can't wait to watch a 3.5 hour. I think I called it a tech demo when we saw the trailer, where it's got the swelling music and it's just like, I hate you. The Na'vi people will be saved. And it's just like all the most generic beats of like, the story we know. And to off the top, I would say like, these movies are ultra generic, but I do think the execution of it and like the kind of buy-in of like how over the top it is, like the guys in front of us in our theater, I kept mentioning, whenever I felt like rolling my eyes or chuckling, they would audibly laugh. And I was like, oh, okay, everyone's in on this. Like everyone, like when they're like, stand down for like the 19th time as they're like huddled together in the woods, which is like, that's every Avatar movie for 30% of the runtime. They're like, like the drinking game was like every time they say, I see you, or hold your fire, as they have another like moment of like, this is the most important thing right now. You got to make a choice, Jake Sully. It's like, you hit all these beats every movie. And when we were rewatching it, I was like, the second one this morning, I was kind of like, oh, they're always running through the forest, and the little white boy spiders always getting abducted by the military complex, and they're always getting them back, and they're all huddling together to be like, are we okay? We're okay. Like, slowly stick together. And like, it hits all the beats. It is generic as hell. I will like say that as like a bit of a diss, but I do think like the atmosphere and the enjoyment of the movies, you're not going for like, Marty Supreme. You're not going to go see this like palpable, like engaging, frenetic filmmaking. You're going for like this big epic, and it delivers in ways that Star Wars has failed. When we have those climactic battles, it's engaging. It doesn't just turn into this like blur of like, oh, everything's fighting. It's like you see a Navi throw a rock through a windshield, and you're like, hell yeah, and then you see another one use, like a squid to take out a torpedo, and you're like, oh, okay, this is fun. Like, this is better than Star Wars, where it's like, let's focus on 3 very forgettable characters running through a CGI blowout in the background. And
I want to actually build off what you just said there a little bit and nitpick you slightly, because you said about like, it's not this like, you use the term like filmmaking. I'm like, I think the filmmaking is what makes this actually compelling, and to contrast it with you said the Star Wars and like the post Endgame MCU for sure, of like, I think the thing that I find really interesting about this is that the filmmaking is like, this is, and I was reading it, it's not an original thought, because I read a review before we recorded, and it was the same thing where I was like, this is like digital filmmaking art. Like, this is not, Disney obviously wants it now for money, but it's like James Cameron isn't making this for money. Like, he likes this, and there's artistry on display here. And I think what makes these sequences, like you were talking about, so good is that they're actually trying, they don't have to hide shit. Like, it looks so good that they don't have to like shroud the whole thing in darkness, because the effects look terrible if they were visible. And granted, like this one, they like some of the fighting, but it's lit well, and like you see everything.
It's colorful.
You're not like,
it's not a murky gray zone. And even this movie with Ash being like a big part of it, it's not like, again, we talk about like the big gray blob end scenes and all these movies. The creative choices, like in the filmmaking, where it's like all the forest has this incandescent, fluorescent kind of like fauna and glow, and it's like they're beautiful movies. Like, I always find it funny on streaming services when it's like visually striking movies. It's like, 'cause they know not everything's visually striking. We were joking about friends of ours who have had those LED TV backlights that react to what's on screen. I used to love that. And then I realized, watching 90% of like streaming shows, reality TV, it'll just glow like a soft white, because every background's generic. It's not color graded very well. Sure, when you watch like an Avatar or Star Wars or like something very poppy and colorful, it does like add to like a bit of like a gimmick, like a Screen X type thing. But yeah, it's refreshing to go to a movie that is so colorful and so realized and thought out. And on that note, he talked about James Cameron interviews and stuff. There was a fan had like tweeted or something, and he was reading this, and it was like, I love James Cameron. He's one of like the most talented directors we have. But I just wish he didn't waste so much time on this franchise. And I did agree with that. But his clapback was like, that's like saying like, oh, what a great guy. I can't believe he's married to that person's wife. Like, it's like you don't belong in that conversation. And after seeing the third movie and kind of revisiting the trilogy, it is great. Like, I can't imagine if James Cameron hands the keys over to another director, like a studio director with his inputs or whatever. I don't know if we're going to get the same quality bar. I feel like, like you said with Black Phone, it was capturing the lightning in a bottle of getting you to buy in. That's so rare. And I feel like a fourth movie, the fourth entry, is just going to kind of do what like Fast and Furious does, where they're like, we're just going to reset a few things and try to keep living in this world. And the initial story passion might not be there. And we're just going to be like, oh yeah, they're huddled together in the forest again, saying, so they stick together. Remember that, and like, I was trying to lampoon this movie for that, but they actually do not repeat all those lines as much. They're in the trailers where they're like, what does Dad always say? And it's like, he's like, what is it? Sully stick together. And he's like, no, the other thing. And it's like,
Sully's never quit.
Sully's never quit. And they're like, yeah, brother, let's go, cuz. Like, we'll get to the Avatar children with the broccoli haircut. That was the thing in the second movie. And they paid off in this movie for me. But
yeah, well, I think so. Just to wrap up the spoiler-free part, I think this is not a movie that is going to change anyone's mind about Avatar. I think broadly speaking, how you felt about the previous movies is probably how you're going to feel about this. I will say though, and we'll flesh this out in more detail in the spoiler section. I think of the three, this is my least favorite. Um, and yeah, we'll get into why in the spoiler section, because there's a lot of like, I think that's part of it. But my biggest kind of disappointment is this one really, this was the first movie of the three where I felt like we were spinning the wheels a bit.
Yeah.
And like, at least like with the first one, like was a clear story. The second one, it was clearly building and moving forward, where this is one where I felt like we were just kind of rotating it.
Stuff.
And like when you say like, oh, we just want to live here, like this was the one where like there were genuine emotional beats for me in the previous two movies that I liked.
Yeah.
And they're really just, there was cool, interesting moments. And there was one beat in particular that I really liked that did draw that emotion, but like it was like a single like arc, but like for a character kind of beat, as opposed to the movie itself. And this very much just felt cyclical, which I feel like would be fine if it was 9 years later. It's not as palatable for me 3 years later.
Yeah. Well,
so that's my kind of overall on this.
I don't disagree at all. I think like
still really liked it.
Yeah,
to be clear.
Not a bad movie, but I think like even last night coming home from this, we were also gassed. We just put like the first one on, and I was really buying into the first one more, having like a real character going through this journey. It was all fresh. You could feel it. And I would even joke. I was like, oh, the cloth physics don't like look as good. And he was like, 16 years old, bro, relax. But you know, I was like, yeah, it still holds up pretty good. And the story I think is stronger because the second movie, when it came out with that 9-year gap or whatever, it was fun and fresh to go back, and now with that lesser gap, it does feel closer to like pumping more out. And you know, we'll get into it, but like you know, like there's so many epic battles in this movie. Without context, it's not a spoiler, but like there's a big aquatic battleship type fight that ends up with burning battleships and people covered in water fighting for their life in like a dark nighttime atmosphere. I'm like, this is the ending of the second movie again. Like, you know, they hit beats that I feel like I visually just saw this. And, you know, when we rewatched today, I was like, oh yeah, there's so many scenes of them running through the woods being like, stick together. Oh, look out, you know, and it can be tiring. So yeah, I do think a break or dramatic change. Like I would almost hope there's like a desert side of Pandora we haven't seen.
Yeah.
But then we get back to less colorful. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It is not necessarily the strongest one in the franchise. I kind of agree. I would say, spoiler free, it is the darkest I think the Avatar franchise has been. There's a lot of serious themes in this, and like I was going to joke about it, but like we were revisiting some of these thoughts this morning. Try not to talk off air, but we're like, oh yeah, that one scene, yeah, they really went there, didn't they? So like kudos to that. Like it wasn't just all this popcorn fluff. There was some moments where I was like, please go there. Please do the heinous things that you're setting up, and, you know, all the implications of like space racism and like, you know, it's obviously always been a story about that, like colonizing and cultural appropriation and stuff like that. But they go deeper with it where they don't just keep glossing over it. So
spoil something.
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's dive into this a little bit, because I think
check out the movie if you really want to see
watch it. It's worth a watch. Like again, it's long. It doesn't feel its length.
Yeah, 3.5 hours, by the way.
Yeah.
No
like
bathroom break needed.
Yeah, we both. I mean, I was breaking a little bit. I drank. You gave me too many drinks before we left. And I knew I was making a mistake. But we all made it through. And yeah, like again, they're definitely like long movies, but they don't feel like you're not like, oh my god.
It's entertaining and 3D and that better theater experience. And I think I saw one of my favorite like ways to synopsis, like two favorite things that you said. The one was Avatar is kind of like Nickelback. Like it was really easy to hate on it because it's so big and good.
Yeah.
Those who hate on it are just like contrarian hipsters, and I can respect that to a degree. You know, it is generally really likable and profitable and everyone likes it. So hating on it doesn't make you a better film person. You know, especially in our age of like the A24 letterbox crowd. Like, Avatar is the Nickelback of movie franchises. You heard it here first. But, and then secondly, the people talking about people hating on Avatar, and I get the Avatar hate. I would say I'm closer to a hater in general. But it's like the reason why you don't like Avatar is because you saw it on too small a screen, too late in time. If you saw this at home,
dude, I watched Avatar like this and I thought it sucked.
Yeah,
what are you talking about?
I saw Avatar on my laptop in my college dorm, bro. It's overhyped. It's just like Nickelback.
I put it on my PlayStation 2 on my CRT.
Yeah, everybody in college who's like, "Yeah, dude, Nickelback's just so commercial." I really love Mumford and Sons. That's the energy I get now when I hear people critiquing it
Yeah,
or
that's
whatever.
the thing. Like and like to get into we'll get into specific beats, but this is still general. But I mean, like for me, it's okay to make something that's meant to be accessible. Like
Yeah,
it's but and you can do that well and good, and there can still be like art in it. Like you
yeah,
can still be trying. It can be just like, and I think that's the difference. And like so much of it comes down to like intent. Like
yeah,
James Cameron's not making these movies because he has to.
yeah.
Well, maybe he has to internally, like he really
Contract.
wants to. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, I think that's the difference between like kind of like, yeah, like we get a million movies that can touch on the same stuff, but have none of the redeeming qualities of this
Correct.
movie. And I think like to get into it a little bit now on the spoiler side, like the thing I didn't like was that this story, it doesn't progress at all.
No.
Like to the point that yes, like the climactic moment, like the big fight is genuinely like it's larger scale, it's bigger,
Hmm.
but it's the same thing that happened at the end of the second one. They're all hunting the Cocoon, and now there's even more of them, and like so there's more ships and everything, and like so it's bigger in scale, and like there's character growth in the
Yeah,
movie, but and development for individual characters, but like the overall story did not
yeah,
progress. And I think that to me is where, and honestly, like I'm really like that actually kind of disappoints me a lot because
yeah,
I really was hoping that this movie would have more narrative weight.
yeah,
That and like again, like the stories, like these are all stories you've seen a gajillion times. It's not an original thing that way, but like I just wanted more stakes. And like I thought with like now two movies with more this
yeah.
time with these characters that you had opportunities to do things. And I felt like again, even like when we're talking about like spoilers now, like the two villains, like they like one of them doesn't even get a big fight.
No.
Like the fire lady just kind of gets like
Yeah,
they connect and she does her little thing.
she gets
She
tasered.
fucking just runs away.
Just as
And
fear.
then Quaritch, they have like a mini fight kind
Yeah.
of a cool one, like you know, like
Yeah,
like dynamic.
they
and
use the
everything.
atmosphere and like the gravity and the rules. And
Right.
it's fresh, but it is still fundamentally
Yeah.
not well. And you said this earlier too. Like there was that meme where it's like the whole Avatar franchise is literally just these two dudes having a generational beef that end up getting in a tussle and go same time next year. All right, see you
Yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah, and yeah,
Uh,
it just rehashes that way, and then like, and then he does the jump off, and it's like, okay, like, so there just really was like one of the things I can't remember even what movie franchise it was, but like talking about when you do part ones and part twos and all
yeah,
that it's important that your movie sort of feels final in its own way,
yeah.
and this movie really didn't feel final to
No.
me in its own way,
And that
like,
felt a little disingenuous because
yeah,
I felt like they were building that. And like
yeah,
the standout, the best character in the movie for me was the corporal, the general, the army,
Colonel.
the colonel. What was it?
Quaritch.
Quaritch. Yeah, Quaritch. When he's telling the Navi, it's kind of like in the first movie, it was like, "What do we call you?" And he's like, "Jake Sully," like Jake Sully. And here they're
Yeah.
like, he's like, "Who? What's your name?" And he's like, General Quaritch. And I was like, "What was his name again?" Like, but yeah, he's like
You
the
didn't do the
standout.
rewatches before,
Yeah, he's a forgettable army guy. He's a great army guy. We joked a lot
Oh, he
about
looks,
this.
yeah, he's a perfect cast.
Yeah, he's the funniest character. Like he's the comedic
Yeah.
relief. He's the antagonist, and he's got probably what I would call the only like arc I really cared about in this. Like the
Mhm.
rest, we already had seen those arcs. We joke about in the second movie, it was his eldest son who's like, "Dad, I want to fight beside you." He's like, "You're not ready." New movie,
Mhm.
son dies in the last movie. His younger son's like, "Dad, I want to fight beside you." He's like, "You failed me. Your brother's dead." And then, it's like the same proving yourself thing for the kids. And the kid narrates the whole movie too, which
Yep.
I was kind of like, oh, it's a weird shift. And, and we joke about the voiceover sometimes being the most on the nose in this franchise,
Mhm.
like the ending of the second one. Like,
Yeah, whereas like they do the things like your child lives with our ancestors, like you're part of our tribe, and then the voiceover kicks in and goes, "We are water people now," and that was one I remember when we saw
Yeah.
it the years. Ty and Abby and Adriana
And-
were wheezing,
and this movie's almost as bad, like for the same level of like corniness. And like the guys ahead of us in the screening, they chuckled like audibly every time I like winced or cringed. And I was like, oh, I'm glad everyone's on the same boat of like dialogue being like really straightforward.
Well, I feel like, and I'll be able to hone this in a bit better on the second watch, but I feel like it was laughing, but like almost in with like a different.
Yeah.
It
didn't want
there
you
was
to laugh.
specific like not even that, like there were lines that, like I said, that one where it's like we're water people now, like that was delivered in this like serious way,
Yeah.
and I felt like this was a bit more aware of that.
Yeah.
Where like I felt like there was a lot less of those like obviously cheesy like eye roll giggle like lines, but like I felt like they were just aware of when they delivered those bits that like the audience was more in, and that was kind of the result. So I feel like it was just more natural, where it felt like again when we went to see the second one, and we haven't told this story I think for this podcast, but the
Way of Water.
Well, when we went to see The Way of Water, like Ty, Adriana, and Abby were dying like throughout the whole movie at like all the serious bits, like serious bits.
Serious
Again,
bits.
like the delivery, like I was sympathetic to why they were like, I got it. And it was the same thing with me and Ty in like Top Gun, when like every emotional beat of that movie was emotional for me. And Ty would like, and I remember like he said, like I leaned over to him and was like, I hate how much you're laughing. So this was kind of like their vibe for that movie.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, like the credits, the girl right in front of us turned around and was like, you guys ruined the whole movie because they laughed the whole time. But I'm sympathetic to them is like that girl should have spoken up. Like you don't turn around after the 3-hour movie is over to tell us that. But I felt like the movie was more aware of that dynamic, and it didn't feel like a disconnect as much in this one as it did in the second one. For sure.
I would say like to kind of like get into specific what like did and didn't work. Back on like the Quaritch character, the general. This movie for me, and like especially rewatching the first one after, where I found the best engagement was seeing, our token character like gain agency and like become part of the Na'vi people. The general, who's like a staunch anti-Na'vi, calls them savages. He literally links up with like this movie's version of like Somali pirate, like warlord savages, and he like sees how crazy the main baddie fire sorceress chick is. And that's where he does the Dances with Wolves thing. But instead of coming in to be like, I want to learn your ways, he's like, I also want to burn this planet down, and you're a cool senorita. And like, I like that dynamic. And like you said, this is like your favorite moment where you popped. The general goes from being like this, like all aliens are scum, to being like, I like these guys, they're kind of fun. And then when he shows up, basically he slowly starts becoming more like the savage people. And then the best part for you comedically is like, there's a moment with the general who was so staunchly anti-alien, who's like starting to really love the culture of these warlords, ends up showing up to like a briefing, and he goes, was I not invited on purpose? What the hell is this? And he shows up wearing full war paint.
He's fully kitted out in the Fire Tribe's like outfit, makeup. Like the clothes, the makeup. And I was like, that to me was the funniest, without question, part of the movie. And again, not 100% sure, like if that was one where I'm like, was there a disconnect there? But it was a visual gag at least,
because everybody in the briefing looks at him being like, is this guy being for real right now?
Yeah, all the humans that are there, and they're all like, and he shows up, and that's the first time like we've seen him with them and everything. Like obviously that had happened, but he just shows up to this briefing fully kitted out
like
in their
Apache
outfit,
war chief outfit, and like. Why am I not in the briefing?
And
he knows too.
And I was howling at that.
And he knows that everybody in the military base, which was like his old him, like, like the military complex, is like, we hate having these savages on our base. What are you doing? And he's like, don't ruin a good thing. And then later he's like, it's like, so he's aware, like he's socially aware enough that like everyone's kind of looking at him funny. And when he shows up to this meeting, he's like, what the hell? Why was I invited to this? And they're like, are you being for real right now, dude? You are literally cosplaying as a warlord, walking around boning your alien queen, and like, going around drinking like their like alien brew, being like, and
it was that movie equivalent of that bit, and was the Spider-Man when the guy's like, oh, 2 tickets please, and he's like, for what movie? And then he turns and he's got the Spider-Man outfit, and it's like, obviously that was like, it's the same spiritual energy of that. Like, why wasn't I invited to the briefing on the human meeting? And then he's kitted out in their outfits and stuff, like genuinely that. Again, I don't know if it was or wasn't, but it was so funny.
Yeah, and again, like his arc is great because, like, we joked about this. We're like, same time next week. Yeah, I'll see you next week. There's so many moments where they have that. And I call it friends to lovers pipeline. Yeah, sorry, enemies to lovers pipeline, where Jake Sully's like, at gunpoint, knife point. He's like, General, you can change. You got to open your eyes. And I was like, that's so corny. And I watched the first movie, and the Na'vi said, "It's like you can't make the Skywalker open his eyes."
Yeah.
And so like there's that arc. They're setting that up, and I thought this movie would pay it off a little bit. But when it ends, it's a little bit more ambiguous. Where the general is like, same time next week, and he jumps into a void, probably not dying. And you're just kind of like having these moments of like, when will the general have that I see you moment? And like, I hope that's not the whole purpose of the fourth movie, because we've already treaded so much ground in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like they could have done a little tighter. Like this could have been the final chapter.
Well, that's this is where my biggest gripe with the movie is
and concern for the future.
This should have felt like a trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like, especially like, I don't know, like, who knows, like, it's unclear right now. Again, there's plans for like 8 movies, whatever they've said, but like, it's not clear if James Cameron's going to pass that off and do other things. Like, he at least has one movie that he's queued to do before, I think, another one.
Because he's planned like 5, he said. He's talking about.
Yeah, well, there's been like 6 or 7. Like, like Sigourney Weaver said, like, her character is going to be the narrator of the 4th one, and she was told that 13 years ago.
Yeah.
So like, it's been like a plan for a while. And this is where I'm like, okay, like, I was on board because, again, like, there was progression, and this is the first movie where you spin your wheels,
rehashing so many set pieces and arcs.
Well, it's not even the rehash. Like, yes, that's all part of it, but again, it's like just the biggest single thing, if I had to boil it down, is the story does not progress.
Yeah,
characters progress a little bit, but the story overall doesn't, and that's, again, my biggest gripe, is that there's really no finality to this. Even in the same way, like, again, the end of 2, the same beats happen. Like, Quaritch gets rescued and is still alive and whatever, but the movie itself feels like it had an organic end to that chapter. This movie just feels like a part 1 of some more, and this is the first time I really felt that. And I think that, to me, is the biggest thing, because especially if it's the end of James Cameron in like directly directing it and being as heavily involved, then I would have really liked to see some of these threads come together in a way that ended a bit more, because like, it's not enough for me. Like, when you expand this generically and it's so much, like, if it's going to be a lot more often, you need a good story to really compel me, because like, again, I could overlook the simplicity of the first 2 kind of plots, because again, from a filmmaking perspective, the evolution was so significant. Like, I'm just in awe watching the movie. Like, the fact that like some of the moments I remember most are like in the second one, when he's like wrapping a strap on his hand when they're like,
mounting.
I'm like, look, like, I'm fast. Like, it just looks amazing. And you're like so engrossed in all of that. And like, that to me is the thing. So like, without that evolution in this one, where it looks amazing, but it's just as amazing as the last one, and then you're just kind of spinning the wheels. Like, I think a universe where like, this is my favorite, if this is the movie where a lot of these arcs kind of wrap. But if they're just going to kind of continue on, like, this is where I feel like, again, when you brought up Star Wars, it's the problem with Star Wars, is that they're like, every story in this has to at least tie into the Skywalker family. And it's like, if this, like, Avatar is like, it's your world, you can create so much with it. And if every story has to involve the Sully family and Quaritch, then it's like, and you're making 8 of them. Like, how much progression can you have? And like, that to me is like the single biggest issue with this movie, is there's just no story progression.
I do think like predictions, both Nightmare and what I would want, I would say, because we talked about the time gap, like from the first one to the second one, there was a big gap, and they grow, they live in the world. And I was even saying this to my girlfriend who didn't see it with us. She's like, so what's the deal with the third one? Like, is that also 10 years in the future? I'm like, no, actually, it's like a week after the first movie. Like, they're still grieving and life's still changing. But I wouldn't mind, and it could be a bad idea, because we talked about the Skywalker of it all, was the next movie, even if it's 3 years from now, they just do like a 20-year time jump. Jake Sully is either dead or retired. And then Quaritch has been on like his own spirit quest. And I was even joking, like, the divorced dad energy of Quaritch, who's like, yeah, your mom was a real nightmare to live with. You remind me of her, son. Anyways, here's my new warlord stepmommy. My thought and my hope almost is like the next movie's him being like stranded for the first hour of the movie, and then he meets a Na'vi chick, and he's like, "Wow, you're so much more nurturing than my last few relationships. Maybe I am the problem." And he goes on the divorce dad arc of like finding a good woman, and he's like, "You're right, Sully. I did open my eyes. I just needed a good woman in my life."
Yeah.
And then maybe Spider is like, I was never accepted because there's like, I want to get into like just beat for beat spoilers here.
Yeah.
Some of the darkest scenes of this movie are like killing children. There's one scene where they kill a child. I was thrilled. It's the broccoli headed water tribe kid. He's always like, "Yo, cuz," and he's got the broccoli, Gen Z haircut. He gets a harpoon in the chest, and I was like,
there's like a bunch of them. They were like coming out, and they're like the little rods that all stuck.
It was
he
graphic.
got peppered, dude. He got like 6 or something.
They kill women and children in this movie, and I was like, oh, good, they go there. They're not like Stranger Things. They're not just gonna have a dozen children living forever, especially in like these harrowing battles. But then when it comes to like the characters that we are actively rooting against or like wanting some payoff on, like again the evil Fire Queen and Quaritch, they kind of just are like, wow, I sure got my butt beat. I'm going to retreat. I'm going to go lick my wounds off screen.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the heck? Like they have them dead to rights many times, and they always pause the fight for like a ICU type moment or like.
Well, it killed me because like, again, talking about beats for beats with the second and the third movie. So like, again, this is literally the same thing. Like Quaritch had the kids waiting on the boat and they were like ready to fight them on the boat, telling them to come to the boat. That literally happens like almost the exact same way. He picks up one of the comms and goes, "Sully, I know you can hear me." Like he literally says the exact, "Sully, I know you can hear me." It's the same beat.
Come find me.
But in the second one, that was more fleshed out. Like they fought on the boat for a while. And then this was like, as soon as they spring them on the boat, like the fire girl runs away, like the chief, like she gets zapped by Kitty and runs away. So that's done. And like, it was a lot more sped through on that part. And so, and again, even their big fight, like it wasn't like dramatically longer. It was longer in the second one, but like, yeah, it just was a rehash of the same thing to end up in the same position, basically.
And Quaritch even called, like, Quaritch is the comedic relief character, which nobody expected. And I appreciate that. But like, yeah, one of the funny, he gives the biggest gut busting laughs in the audience from our experience. And like, yeah, in that final fight, there's a pause where they try to save each other and the kid.
Because Spider goes down.
Yeah, he falls off, and the two men set aside their like blood curdling,
their blood
finale.
feud.
And they pick each other up. They're sitting on this cliffside and they're looking at each other. And then Quaritch just goes, "Well, this is awkward." And everyone's like, "Ha ha, Quaritch, you son of a gun. You sure are funny." And then just like we talked about, where it's like same time next week. And, everyone goes to shoot Quaritch and he's like, "Well, it's my time." And then Sully's like, "Wait, no, he can learn." And he's like, "I can't learn this movie. I'll see you in the future." And
got 3 more of these before me. I
into
can
a cloud of smoke and water.
Yeah.
And he totally lives because, as they said in the first movie, they have was it carbon fiber wrapped bones, like similar to carbon fiber. So I'm like, you can get shot to death pretty easy in these movies, or an arrow. But yeah, it's like fall damage for these guys, not a big deal.
No, they're totally fine. But yeah, the one emotional bit that I liked was like his character. Like that was always an interesting thing. It was in the second one where Neytiri like rejected him as like he's a human, he should be with his own kind and all of that. And then that is more enhanced because there was the end bit on the second one after their son dies where Sheath like to Quaritch threatens to kill him. And was like, "I'll kill your son. You unhand ours, I'll give you yours." But she would have killed Spike, and she cuts his chest and everything. And so they do carry that forward into this one where like they try to send Spider away right at the beginning, which I thought felt weird.
That Jake Sully,
he was a little too like on board with it, I guess, and it felt off there, but that was the thing. And they kind of recover a little bit of that for me, but there's this, again, I just felt like some of the beats when they handled it just felt a little sloppy. And where so Spider rescues him in this movie, helps him get away, and then they fly off, and it's Neytiri, Jake, and Spider, and he's like, "Land the thing,"
like,
so they land, and they start talking. He's like, "You're right, we need to kill him." And there's like the reason, I get the reason. They're like, he is the link between humans living here without masks, and if they can live here without masks, they will wipe us all out.
Colonize everything,
and they could come here.
It's the end game now. Was kind of like the theme in this movie was like, if we don't squash this one final time, then we're done in the next movie. And it's almost like the Disney-fication, but the scene that we're building to here is like was it Neri, the main Na'vi wife,
Neytiri.
She's like in her worst mental state possible. She starts the movie losing everything a second time, and like they bring faith into this movie in a way that I thought was pretty fitting. You have the almost satanic fire cult that is like, we reject Awa because they let us burn on the mountain and I saved us. They don't explain it. I think it might be cannibalism, but you know, you have like the religious zealot, which is always a fun character arc for me, or a character trope archetype. And then they have faith being a big thing in this because they're always abandoned by the elders who are all peaceful, watching them people die. And you know, as a moviegoer, like they're gonna rally the troops eventually. They're gonna speak to the elders. They're gonna go to the Jedi High Council and finally say we need to stop Order 66. So but yet again, so like it starts the movie with her. She's in the worst place she's ever been, grieving mother, and she's like, let's kill the pink skinned child. I'm like, whoa, those are some real alien hate derogatory terms they're throwing around now. You know, they call them like dreamwalkers in the first movie. They call them sky people all the time. And then the pink skin one, I'm like, ooh, they're really getting alien racism back in this movie. And so she's like, we got to kill the boy. And Jake Sully's like, that's unreasonable. You're being a little crazy right now. And she's like, you're a deadbeat husband. He's like, whoa, babe, relax. So he's like, let's just send him back to go live with the scientists up in the mountains. And they go on a family road trip, and all the kids are like, no, he's my brother, cuz. So anyways, they all vouch for each other. Family's a big theme, you know. But yeah, Jake's arc in this movie is realizing like he's kind of this hypocrite in a way where it's like, I became your people. That's fine. That's good. Right. And he's like, well, maybe this is bad. Like this is the problem. People trying to assimilate and all that. And that's like the line is Spider of like, he's like, no, everyone deserves a happy ending. And his wife's like, are you ridiculous? Like, of course not. And so some point in the midpoint, I like the second act low, it's not like all hope is lost. It's like a very somber scene where he's like, I'm going to go kill a child in the woods. You're right. We can't let him live so we can protect our people. And Jake Sully's now the bad guy for the first time. And he brings Spider into the woods. And it's like a little kid like, where are we going, Dad? I have to go pee. And he's like, sit down. Don't look at me. And he's pulling the knife out. Yeah. And I was saying like in a worse movie, the scene where he's got the knife to his throat and he's like genuinely about to kill him, Spider would turn around like, look me in the eyes when you kill me. And I'm like, oh, they're going to do it. And instead he's like, I accept my fate. I care about the Na'vi too. And then Jake's like, I can't do it. I'm a good guy.
Although I will say, and this was like that.
I'm doing discredit to it. It was a really big scene.
Well, but that beat was great. Like that was the emotional high point of the movie for me, without question. The one part of that beat that I hated was how they like end it, where he goes and they pull the knife back and he thrusts it forward, but we can't see into
just
what.
Stops
and then the camera cuts back, and then he like stabbed in front of him. And I'm like, oh my God. Like that's where I'm like, yeah, you had me. And then that part I was like, that's so fucking stupid. Like you would drop it, or you would like, and like I can't, but they had to make us think for half a second that did he fucking just
I always like to blame Sam Worthington for stuff. And I think like, you know, as the best screenwriter who's ever lived, I think there could have been a better version of that where it's on Spider and he's like crying and he's ready to die. And then instead of having that fake out knife thing, it's just Jake crying himself in a corner, like acting. And then they all come together and realize like they're losing their way. But instead, it's like that fake out and he's just like, I can't do it. I'm a stoic jarhead. I'm a jarhead. Like,
well, like, it was like, well, like he kind of had that emotional bit, and I like that Natiri like ran, like she would have been late, but she at least like she regrets. She said, no, we can't do that.
Because it's her idea that poisons him, being like, you know, we can't have tolerance when we're in an intolerant world. And again, good theming, and I don't think they've fumbled it by any means. But yeah, like
it was like, to me, it was like just like a little bump that like could have been better.
Could have been a little better. It was still good.
I wasn't like, to me, and this is like you mentioned the Disneyfication or whatever. This is one of those ones where it's like they never, like, no movies in this mainstream sense ever do anything like really challenging. And like to see like our main character through these movies,
the lovable
like,
child side character.
Who's like, I gotta say, I really like the character, because even like the movie really plays with this, and like his parental figures and his, you know,
he's had bad
Quaritch and Jake Sully and like the family, like he's never really waffled. And even in the moment in this movie where you think like, oh, maybe he is warming up to the human side, where he's like, can I keep the dog tag? And he just used it to fucking unlock shit and then dropped him on the floor. I was like, I liked that a lot with his character. And I saw something else too, where like this was such a great beat. Like someone, it was a tweet, I think. And someone was like, this was such a great beat. I was just wildly distracted. Or I was just thinking about how much better it would have been if the kid that plays Spider could act. And that was another beat where like there was,
what do you mean, you poo head?
Totally derail me, but it was one of those bits where like, it worked. Like I said, there's my emotional peak of the movie, but there was moments where I was like, like it just like as he was like the knife to his throat, like he wasn't like super believable.
It's like, I guess I'm ready to die. I hate those poo head.
But like it again, like these are things that like could sway you either way, but like ultimately, like it worked on me completely. It just there was like bumps where it could like if you were like, okay, I can't, and I would be totally sympathetic to that because like again, I loved like how it was scripted worked where he even like he's like Dad, like and like
Dad,
it didn't feel like the part where like oh my God, like it didn't feel like that eye roll moment. Like it felt true to that character.
Yeah.
And it really kind of did work for me. It was just, some beats with the execution that waffled, but like, to have your main character.
Yeah.
Like I was, again, it's not like it's revolutionary in the era, but it's not in like actual storytelling. And so it was really interesting to me. And that was where I was like, okay, like there are character progressions here, but it was just like it all kind of packages, like they progress a little bit, but like the story doesn't.
Yeah. To touch on what you were saying too, when you said like, they can't go too dark with it. There was a scene that I gave a lot of credit for, the son who's always trying to prove himself. And like, that's a big thing. Actually, I do want to come back to his arc because I think if there's one thing they could have cut, it maybe in part of his arc. But there's a huge scene in the movie that we both were like, whoa, I can't believe they kind of tried that. Was he feels like he's let down by his dad because his dad, like Jake Sully, is a bad dad in this one. I think more than the other installments. Like he really is grieving and just being like, get out of here, you're a failure, son.
And the thing I was thinking about was in what was the friggin' Dewey Cox where he's like, the wrong kid died. Like that was basically the energy that he had for the movie. Like, your fucking brother's dead because of you. The wrong kid died.
The good brother.
Sorry to interrupt, but I was like, I had to think about that because that's all I could think about.
No, totally. We're going to eventually record Song Sung Blue, and I kept thinking Dewey Cox, get out of here, Dewey.
Exactly.
But yeah, so like the whole thing with the kid and the scene that I think was like one of the darkest, and like they went there, and I appreciate like they do the and I would call it internalized racism, which I hadn't touched on. It's always been that surface level, like aliens are savages and we should colonize. Like that's obvious. Mm-hmm. But in this one, they have that whole thing about like the generational sense of it. And, I'm like the least progressive person sometimes. And I really thought that was handled well. But this scene specifically, the dark scene that I want to get to is like the son who feels completely kind of like abandoned. Moak, their boy, their brother, the outcast whale, which that's Payakan, the Payakan story.
Man, are you even a fan of this shit? Dude, I got all these names locked and loaded in here.
Well, Shay rewatched on his like Opus screening, and he was just like, "Yes, time to re-internalize this." I'm like putting it on mute in the background at holiday parties. Like, I got to rewatch Avatar. So, but the son, after feeling abandoned, he's lost his other brother, the whale, and he's like beat up about it. He just goes out to the water, stares out the water, and he pulls out an assault rifle and he goes to like kill himself. And I'm like, whoa, and that part of me was like, please do it, please. Because I want Jake Sully to have like a real moment of like, I have failed, more than just like the service level stuff that I feel like he stays with, like the Sam Worthington effect of like, I don't emote because I'm an everyman. So his son almost killed himself in this movie. And I was like, wow, that would have been like, especially like, that wasn't like a big fight scene. That wasn't like a big argument. It was a somber, quiet moment where a character is without hope. And I thought that was like, I never expected an Avatar movie to have a blue alien suicide moment. And I thought that was really good story-wise to have a beat that was quiet and sad as opposed to these constant like, here's a quiet moment where a guy learns the language of a tree sprite, like here's a moment that's like real. So like, and again, like the alien racism bits, they feel pretty earned because like, she calls them pink skins and she's like, they're the problem. And then Sam Worthington as Jake Sully, he's like, you hate him because he's a pink skin, huh? And she's like, I do. I want to kill him. He's going to be the downfall of society. He's like, oh, what? So you hate your kids? Because don't forget, I'm a pink skin too. And she's just like, and he's got his 5 fingers. She's got her 4. And she's like, don't touch me. Get away from me. And I was like, wow, this is a real domestic argument. Like they're going there. Like they have moments where they go there together and they try to have it like be real instead of this fantasy world where this might as well have been like an interracial couple being like, hey, I know my racist uncle is like killing your family and all, but it's like, I was once that, like I can change, have hope. And she's like, that's the problem, as I had hope. And you rewatch those first movies and you're like, oh yeah, they actually really did tie these into that character having, you know, being the progressive one that's now old and lost so much. And she's like, I actually think I should have been right. I should have stood with my elder Klansmen, my brother, and everybody who's cautious of the sky people coming in, you know. And I don't know. Again, like
the internal psychology of it, right? That's really interesting. Where most movies, again, like in this era,
they gloss right over.
Yeah, well, like, or they wouldn't even have addressed it, right? Like, it would have just been. It's super easy to be what, like, more of what the first movie was, like the othering, and it's like them, but it's like no. Or like again, the worst movie of this is like they're judged by the fact that they're like interracial, which like is in the second one, like other people outsiders, like you guys are different, like the kids in the second one, you're Woody broccoli head,
the broccoli headed water
he's like they do that because those kids are different and stuff. But it was really interesting to like dig into that, like internally. He's like, when our kids fuck up, you think it's because of me.
You think it's because they're
and I was like, oh, like, it was just like, again, it's not that it's a revolutionary thought and a concept, it is, but it is in this era of movies that we get, especially ones where they're commercial. Like you don't get, I was like, oh wow, they went there. It would have just been easy to caricature bad guy, caricature.
If you told me that the third installment of a giant blue alien space fantasy was going to have a moment where a teen alien has a suicide moment, a grown man has to kill his adopted child to save the world, and him and his wife have a blowout about her lingering racism towards him being an outsider.
Their own interracial
and their
relationship.
And their kids. Right? And because it all starts from the scene where Jake's like, the wrong kid died. You know, he's like, he's a failure. And then she points it at him and be like, you remember in the second movie, Jake, when you said you're going to protect our family? Look at us now. And he's like, bitch. Like, you know, he loses that fight. So then he's like, well, you're actually a space racer. She's like, I am. What of it? And then they get into that. I'm like, wow, you know, I feel like that's the whole part. Like, if this segment was 10 minutes in, this whole video would be completely like squashed for the amount of buzz terms. I'm like, suicide, space racism. I haven't even got to like the alien physiques and how I think James Cameron is a little bit of a horn dog.
We've been talking about this all morning already too.
To lighten the podcast,
go on.
I'm going to call it Brandon's silly segments about Avatar here. There's a meme that we saw going into it, and I just was like, what a fun meme. It's a scene from One Battle After Another where you have Lockjaw in the grocery store, who's like that movie, he's like, you like black girls? I love them. But in this, I'm like, the whole movie, all I could think is this is James Cameron, not the general, not, you know, it's James Cameron himself filming these, being like, you like Na'vi girls? I love them. Because I was like, I'm typically like on the podcast, anyways, long story. I typically am not like,
he's our senior nudity correspondent. He is the guy that if there's and then again, all kinds, nudity of all kinds. He's the expert on that.
Yeah, exactly. I was the guy to bring up Nosferatu's hanging dong. I was the guy to bring up Glenn Powell's towel scene. I'm the guy.
Glenn Powell.
I'm all over nudity, and I wasn't going into this movie for this. And in fact, I would even joke, like, I feel like Avatar blurs the lines on like furry culture sometimes. But the whole movie, especially with the Colonel General guy who starts betting the alien baddie, I was like, damn, like these movies are so like I could see kids going into this and having like a sexual awakening because there's all these super sexy, slender men and women, people that like literally have two feathers as they're being blown away in the wind, and you're like, the nudity line in this, it's kind of like when we watch Predator, where it's like, how's this PG-13? There's so much gore. Like, well, it's robots. In this movie, it's like, man, if this was like humans again, like doing like a Dancing with Wolves, and there's that much like skin on screen, people would throw a riot being like, this is not for kids. Like, how do you have 90% naked beings the whole movie? I'm like, well, because they're blue and it's fine. But I definitely had that moment, and like again, the Star Trek of it all, where it's like Captain Kirk's always betting alien baddies. I was like, I really feel James Cameron's internal monologue is like, I just love the Na'vi figure. You know, I love them. Yeah. So anyways, my long wrap up of this is I think One Battle After Another ran because this movie walked by having the Colonel being the guy that now goes down that road. It's like it's like life imitating.
It's funny that this both happened like in the same year.
You have
like the same like military, like it's not beat for beat the exact same thing, obviously, but it's like similar.
A repressed hard ass military guy who hates the others, like the other
You're
race.
A traitor to your own kind, and then he shows up. Like that's the fact that that's the same guy, and then he shows up to the briefing before we get it out in their makeup and shit. It's like, what the fuck wasn't I invited? Like, again, like in this movie, like I was wheezing. That is the funniest whole bit to me, because it's like, yeah, like he literally like Na'vi women, because I love them.
and like it's the funny thing too. We watched the first Avatar, and like there's this scene where Jake and Neytiri kind of like finally kind of like get into it. And they make out. They have their like loving scene in the woods. And James Cameron, I think, wanted more of this, because we talked about he's like, you're about to be unemployed if you don't put that like 18 minutes of screen time in that tent scene back.
The tent scene was sweet.
The tent scene is my favorite. Like they do visuals and like, and again, I think it's where they imply like they're also cannibals, because she's like, I saved us from starvation. And you're like, how? Also, starvation. They never show them eating after the first movie. And the most unrealistic part of this whole movie, the third one, is there's another scene where Spider's in a lab and they're running tests. He's hitting the chair off the glass to break out. And the Colonel comes in and he's like, hey, son, brought you a cheeseburger. And he slaps it away. And that was the moment where I was like, brother, no one eats. All these lean Avatar aliens are lean and muscular because they don't eat. They like photosynthesize. They swear to God, they stopped eating fish after the first 10 minutes of the new movie. In the first movie, I think like they show it. And again, like we joked, like, 16 years ago, dude. I'm like, no, Ang Lee's Hulk was a better quality of eating fish in a river. But the whole thing is like, yeah, I was like, yeah, it took me out as a fat ass. I was like, when he rejects the burger after I've seen nobody eat for like 9 hours of screen time, I was like, brother, I would love.
There's 3 keys evidently to your perfect movie: good food, lots of nudity across the board, and divorce theme, and like family problems.
Family problems.
If the family's too like happy, it's like not for Brandon.
So by that metric, Avatar 3 hits all those beats but food. You know what I mean? Like I was like, yeah, there is. And it's like, this is not an original take. I've been shying away from this because I want our podcast to stand above others. But yeah, I'll get back to it. But yeah, it's like the goth fire queen satanic chick.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what a great foil to Neri as being like the unaccepting one. That's what gets the Colonel in. And like, I really want in the fourth movie to Jake and the Colonel to like have a dap up like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Predator, to be like, you're right, I do love bed and alien women, and now I see you, Jake Sully. That's what I'm predicting. It's my lock. I'm locking that in for 2027 or whatever. That's going to be the moment where he's like, I finally bedded more alien women, and I understand, Jake. That's why you left being a crippled person and being like a military guy. And that's the thing, Jake Sully, and this is another small gripe, but people tell people how they are this whole movie, all franchise.
Yeah.
It's like you see a white little Sprite dust ball come in, and then that's like, she's pure of heart. Yeah, they're always like, the ancestors live here, you're special. Or it'll be like, I can tell you're not like the others. Yeah, what was it? Awa has chosen you.
Yeah.
And again, I'm the least person to complain about this, but I was like, the subtle hints, if somebody's sensitive to this will feel this, the white savior complex in these movies is insane. Because like even the girl with the most like connection to Awa, the clone girl, the Sigourney Weaver's like clone offspring, like a long story. If you see the movies, you know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I was saying she's got the most perfect white person like button nose compared to like Jake Sully, Caucasian, gets the cat nose. But for whatever reason, it's like we had to like almost like racially put her as like a white Na'vi. And then when she finally sees Awa, it's like a white woman. And I was like, I feel like I'm the least culturally sensitive, but I do feel like there's a little bit of whitewashing going on Pandora here. It should have been like, it should have been an alien. I don't know why it was like a perfectly porcelain figured white woman in that scene. I'm not offended by it, but I'm like, this is weird. And again, calling people, if we can add this up, calling people pink skins the whole movie, I was like, oh, I mean, I don't know, it's a little bit edgy. And then
which is new for this one.
It's new.
Yeah, they didn't.
But then I started thinking about it, and every time they show, and this is cartoonish, like this is like the First Order in Star Wars, where it's like, they're like, we want to destroy more alien life. Like they're always so cartoonishly evil. Everybody on the military spaceship in this movie specifically, and every grunt, every soldier, every bad guy is a white guy. And I was kind of thinking like, in Earth, in this universe, is there real racism on Earth too that's transcended? Because it seems like everybody in space in this movie is Caucasian completely.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely look more for that in the second one, because I had the same file when they started using pink skin.
Pink skins,
like, okay, and then because like in the first one, like there was definitely like there's definitely other races.
We watched it back,
in
and there is a guy who's getting them off like the dropship. He's like, go, go, go. I'm like, oh, there is one like visibly.
There's one there,
pick.
and then like in the scene where like Quaritch is delivering, like I'm here to, like giving the kind
I'm not going to save
thing.
all you.
So it was like always a multiracial cast that way. But yeah, it was something that I'm like, now that they leaned into the Pixar, I'm curious to watch that back now and just kind of like look for that, because it was like a noticeable part for that, because like again, that was like a new slur that they introduced or whatever for this one.
While we're talking about media and awareness and the cultural relevancy, I would say one thing I found kind of interesting, and we were debating about this, was when they captured Jake Sully in this movie for like the umpteenth time. There's so many times where everyone's just like being held at gun or knife point and they just escape. But the most ultimate scene where he's finally captured, they go to like the human world base on the planet on Pandora, and there's like 400 members of the press all with their iPads out streaming this, and everyone's like, we finally got him. And in my head, I was like, I don't know if the home world cares that much about Jake Sully. And then Shay was like, well, yeah, I mean, this is the big evil mega corporation. They own the media. I was like, true. But in this like hard world to live on, I'm like, did they really send out 400 journalists for this? Like they just wanted to populate the scene and make it look like, evoke imagery of like propaganda and having like, him holding a war queen's hand as they're like, we got him, we got our guy. It's like,
oh yeah, well like functionally that would definitely like think about like the modern version of this, like if like not even necessarily like the planetary component, but like this colonization thing would happen, like there would definitely be controlled press that were there that were like, make sure you like bump up and hype up what we're doing, because like they even show on screen at one point like the traitor Jake Sully finally captured or whatever.
And we were joking about that too, because they're like, I guess there would be a political spectrum in this movie. It's just like the movie's great and it touches on what needs to be done. This is just us nitpicking like the greater lore of what the Avatar world is, like what does Earth look like, because they always allude to it being like ran through on resources. But we joke, it's like, all those journalists that are out there be like, they got him, they finally got him, they're taking photos. That's just the Fox News. It's like, make Pandora great again. And there's definitely people on Earth that are like, I think he's a freedom fighter, and like they're at family Thanksgiving. And
well, do you think that's gonna be like the Quaritch arc eventually, where he's like, now I'm gonna recreate my image?
Well, that's definitely the general. He's like, this used to be a great planet, and like, bro, you ruined the planet. And then next thing you know, there's like a cutaway scene where it's Thanksgiving on Earth, and someone's like, Dad, I can't believe you support Quaritch is making Pandora great again. I think Jake Sully's a hero, and then they slap him. He's like, not in my house, he's not. Too real. But anyways.
It's too modern. And he wasn't thinking about this 13 years ago when he was writing movies 4 and 5, hopefully.
Yeah, my dad's a bit of a controversial figure, and he's like, oh, I really love the podcast. I'm like, thanks, Dad. That's why we talk about movies, because can't talk about anything else. I'm not qualified to talk on anything else, really.
But I think like overall, like I guess to kind of try and bring this back, like I think that this is without question, this is my least favorite of the three. My ranking would be 2, 1, 3. Having watched them more recently. I thought again, like to me, the second one really just kind of had all of the kind of things I liked about the first one, and it was just more of it and better,
fresher.
And it was I think just for that reason. And then again, this one, like I got really hung up on the wheel spinning again. Like again, that's not to say that like nothing happens. Like you said, there's just character moments and beats that I was genuinely impressed that they were in there. But just like overall, like I'm with you if it's like if you have 6 movies and they feel like 6 parts of a story, okay, but this really feels like this is the turning point where I'm like, okay, now this just feels like I just like living in this world and I want to just stay in this world and I'm just sticking with what I have. And I really wanted like something here,
something more.
Like when he was captured, like I kind of wanted them to like, okay, like, do something with Jake Sully. Like I wanted, because again, like the only real, like I wouldn't even call him a main character, because in the second one he's not even the main kid, really. But like when when the son and the older brother dies in the first one, like I've been calling out all the names. I don't remember that name. It's like Ned. I don't even remember. And so like it's like he wasn't like ever present in that movie, and so the loss, like while I felt that rewatching it, even it wasn't like a significant one. And I really thought like even the characters that they kill, like it's the broccoli headed kid.
Yeah.
It's
The broccoli headed kid's mom.
yeah. And so so it's like I didn't, there was no like weight to this movie in terms of the big story beats and the characters of like consequence and things like that. And like it was the first time where it was almost like I felt the plot armor too much. And the thing is, like, not in a way that I can really justify. Like, it doesn't feel like, oh well, clearly it's because they're building to this, so they need everything here. Like, it just felt like we have plot armor because we're paralyzed a little bit about what direction and wanting to do this. And like, if you kill off Jake Sully, he's your main character for these movies and stuff like that. So like, it was the first time I just felt like this wasn't like an arc. This wasn't about a story. It was more just your wheels are turning because you want to do
the world.
And like if this wrapped the story a little bit, like again, it's not like wrapped in a way like the planet doesn't have to blow up and like an end, like, and then from here they go. But like, I just felt like if this would have been I really wish this was like a trilogy that I was like, yes, this is a contained thing and it was great. And I'm like,
I do think to like add to that too, like as far as like the non-finality and wanting a little bit more closure, a little bit more like importance for the movie, because it's always stressing like this is the biggest it'll ever get, and then it obviously doesn't. There's a scene where again we joked about like the Water Tribe chief wife. She is pregnant and she delivers a baby in the middle of the final battle, and I think like even though that adds stakes, and we saw earlier in like Fantastic Four this year, it's like there's a big chase scene where they're giving birth. Like it's good to add that in, but like the MCU in that scene. It does kind of lead me to feel like if she's giving birth to this child in this fight, and then it's like another theme of like adopted parents, or it takes a village to raise kids and all that, it adds tension in that moment. But my immediate blowback is kind of like, I bet that kid's going to be really important in the next sequel where he's now like 5 and is like, what is family? Where is my mom? You're my family now. Like again, same beats we've already hit with Spider and all these other kids. So I think that does add to it. I would say too, I guess my question to you is like, cause I do agree with a lot of what you're saying is, like I have a bid on this, but where do you hope this goes? Like, what's your pitch? What's your thought? Where does the next movie go to satisfy you without treading too much water? Is it a completely different atmosphere? Is it a spin-off where they're like, Pandora's really cooked. All the movies are tough. We got to go to Pandora 2 for rarium instead of unobtainium. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where do they go? What resource are they after? It's generic enough, but what do you feel like they need to be doing in the second one? Is it a time jump? It's a hard question to answer.
Well, no, I want to say, and I say this with total love, I hate all of the components of the question that you threw in there, because I'm like, that, like, and not that that's what you want to say.
I'm setting you up to fail.
That, you tee me up good to get upset. That to me is like the problem with franchising. I'm like, what I want is for this to end. Like, and not end because I'm tired of it and I don't care. Like, you're getting me to the point where I'm like, this is a wheel spinning. Like, this was the first time it didn't really feel forward. And so, like, I just want finality to this story. And so, like, that to me, like, you can do any number of things. Like, the potential of the digital filmmaking here is infinite, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this world. It doesn't have to be these creatures. Like, it doesn't have to be any of that. Like, you can do something wholly original with this and do something new. And again, that's always up to James Cameron, obviously, and what he wants to do. But like, for me, it's like, I don't care to just like watch more of what I like. Like, I don't care about franchise stuff. I don't care about, like, I just want good stories, and I don't care the form that they can come in. And so for me, it's like, I don't want to see more Avatar just because I like Avatar. No, like, I want this story to wrap. I don't care. And like, the thing for me is like, if you do a spinoff, like you gave me that example, should they do a spinoff thing or whatever? And it's like, well, no, because that's always like, you're going to be contrasted. And like, and then there's going to be that fucking inevitable moment where they like, it's 100 years in the future or whatever. And they find this bow and they're like, this belonged to Neytiri. And then you're like,
wife of Jake Sully.
Fuck. Like, it becomes all this member berry bullshit. And you're trying to like link it back to other things. So it's like, make something, let it have an arc, and then move on. And I don't like endless IP mining, and I was okay with like James Cameron doing this because it's like I trusted like he's doing this, but it's like okay, if this is where you're at, and like for me, narratively, this is makes me nervous. I was like, okay,
They're
if
already
you have
treading
8
water.
movies here,
You-
okay. Now I'm like, and I'm not sold. Like, so for me, it's like I don't have specific like, oh, they should have killed Jake Sully or they should have done this with Quaritch. Like, okay, like you're the storytellers, you're the writers, like, but just wrap the story,
Yeah.
like make this somewhat final. And that's again, like, when I say final, it doesn't have to be in the way where like, again, like we just saw The Shining in IMAX, so
Yeah.
it's like I'm thinking about that, but it's like that movie ends with them just like escaping, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously their lives continue on afterwards, but like so it's not like something has to like Pandora has to blow up or they have to be like the humans will never come back. Like it doesn't have to be that tied up, but like this story needs to have its natural conclusion with like the main core characters and the kids can live on and
Yeah.
whatever, but like this main arc needs to end, I think. And like again, if it's just like we talk about the gimmick, like I'm enjoying it enough of like the
Yeah.
chords like same time tomorrow, like but that wears thin
Yeah.
eventually, and it to me it didn't wear totally thin. Like I said, I still liked this movie, but like if this were to come out 3 years later and it's more of this, then I would be definitely in the negative on the movie.
So to be the antithesis of what you said, I'm picturing
Franchise the shit out of it. I want 7 spin-offs for all the kids, including the new baby, and a sequel,
yes.
a prequel series from life before humans got to Pandora that ends with the humans arriving, and they're like, "What's that?" Cut to, and then
Jake Sully will return in Avatar 1. Actually, you just reminded me. So, no, what I was going to say is, yeah, I want it called Avatar Legends, and it's an 8-part streaming series of showing different factions of the Na'vi world, and then we do like, what was the general's name again? Was it
the Colonel or the General? Colonel Quaritch.
Quaritch Rising, where it's him living in the planet for 8 episodes. I want to see instead of the way of water, the flow of water, and it's the Na'vi baby that was born in the final bite that that has to go into the world with his parents and find family again.
The moment these hit a straight to Disney Plus thing is the moment it's over.
What I would say too is like on that note, like it's funny because like we joked about it. My buddy Bourne came out and he was like, "Yeah, just thought through a 3.5-hour movie so I could see 7 minutes of the Odyssey." And this is my favorite part because like we were pretty hyped to see that Odyssey bit and like hype's there, it's good, don't need to talk about it. But what I would point out, and this is like towards our closer, we have a great closer this episode, but this is somewhat related. When we were in the Odyssey preview at the big IMAX, and we're like, oh wow, this is great. It wasn't the last thing before the movie showed, it was the second last thing. So we see the Odyssey preview, there's a woman in the front row just scrolling Instagram the entire Odyssey preview, and I was like, oh no, I hope she like figures this out and stops. And then the next trailer, it was like a very minimal, almost nothing reveal, but it was a trailer for Avengers Doomsday, and it says Steve Rogers will return in Avengers Doomsday.
Which is so fucking...
It was hilarious because the Odyssey trailer, epic, everyone was there for that. She's on her phone. She puts her phone away during the Captain America Steve Rogers reveal, and there's like, wow, the modern audience is like, there's like peak cinema happening. She's like, Steve Rogers for 2 seconds. She's like, "Ooh, wow, I should," and I was like, "Damn." She was a good throw the rest of the movie. I did think it was really ironic because
smooth brain.
The start of the movie too. While all this was happening, everyone had their 3 glasses on. Hers were off as she was scrolling. She puts them on for the Steve Rogers bit, and then the movie starts, and the girl in front of her puts her phone up, and I could see she was getting annoyed, and I was like, balance. This is so balanced. And then she put her phone away too. There was no phone people in this movie, thank God. But that first 5 minutes of that first 8-minute Odyssey trailer, I was like, oh no, we have a front row IMAXer. And I don't know about you, but the 3 glasses, I feel absolutely blow out and magnify the phone screens. And I was like, I could see it from a mile away. And I was like, 9 likes on Jeremy's post. Yeah, he's not getting over you. Next, like I can see it from 9 rows up. And like again, IMAX, 20 people to our left, 38 people to our right. I'm like, well, I can't do anything about this. But so
no, I think I have to talk about this Avengers thing a little bit, slight derail here, but I am so looking forward to Avengers Doomsday because I think that will be it'll be finally dead.
Yeah.
Because the fucking Russo brothers suck. They are not good filmmakers. They made
Dude, Extraction was so good.
Oh, dude, the things they've made. What was it, like Electric State or whatever, which costs like almost as much as Avatar.
Electric State,
fucking dog. The Gray
Man. Yeah.
Oh my god, the Russos are absolute dog shit, and the fact that they're being brought in because the MCU and since Endgame has also been dog shit. Like you're like, oh my god, dude, there's too much dog shit everywhere, so we're gonna bring this dog that's been eating nothing but chocolate and grapes, which will kill dogs. And like we're gonna get the Russos to come shit out Avengers Doomsday, and they're bringing back all these old characters. Like it's gonna be the antithesis of the member berries.
It'll ruin what was,
and it'll make a shitload of money on opening weekend. And I hope it just catastrophically falls off a cliff after that, because that trailer was fucking stupid.
Yeah.
It was so like lame, and it's literally like it's selling you member berries in the like in the most like nakedly transparent way. And I did let out, I will say, to contrast it, there were a lot of people there that were really like, I saw a lot of buzz, like people were talking. There was the one Smooth Brain Mongo you were talking about that was very excited about that, but definitely most of the people there I could tell were very intrigued by the Odyssey. It's more of like the prologue or whatever. It was really neat. I'm definitely looking forward to that. But yeah, like I just think that, like, please God, let that be the death knell of these like superhero things as we know them.
Well, I think
because this era of that needs to die, and I hope this like movie that's just gonna it's gonna be so bloated and it's gonna be so full of shit that it'll just implode in on itself. And I can't wait. Either that or this is going to age like fucking
milk,
sour milk.
Yeah, well, we were talking about it, and we always talk about the theater experience, but like the guys ahead of us, like they would chuckle and laugh a lot at the movie, and like it made me really happy because I was like, oh, these guys are on my wavelength. And the immediate litmus test probably was that trailer, because you got them, were like, boo.
Oh yeah.
But at the end of that trailer, it says Steve Rogers will return in Doomsday, and it puts up a countdown because it's like to the day, I guess. And you're like, oh wow, I there's talks, like I saw memes of this where people walked out of the Avatar screening after they didn't have a trailer for Doomsday. So that might be new to us, and I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of neat. I was thinking about this, but then the guys in front of us who were like on our wavelength, they started doing the countdown, and they're like, bro, do they just like change the countdown for every screening for the next year of and we all laughed about that. It's like, yeah, what a dumb gimmick. And like it was cool, and like I was like, oh yeah. But these guys on my wavelength were like, yeah, they must re-edit that trailer, or they're like, we are the only people getting that, and the rest of them just say like, see you next fall or whatever.
Well, just to contrast this to one last thing I want to say about this is that, like, I mean, this leaked beforehand, like I'm assuming probably to try and build hype. I would imagine it was an intentional leak, but I think it's had a bit of the opposite effect, which is great. But just like, again, back to Nolan for half a second here, the Odyssey trailer does not exist online. Like there's people that have filmed it, but like I think there's something just like cool about that. Not that you go like, again, I think it's, if you go to watch a trailer, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
I don't like, I mean that even for the Odyssey one. Like if you go to just to see that, you're an idiot, and you walk out, you're an idiot. Like it's not just wait for the movie, calm down. But I do think there's something cool about the fact that like that's especially for this movie, the first movie to film entirely with IMAX cameras. Like this is a movie made for the theaters, and like build the hype up that way. I think is just like, eventually there will be a trailer and all that, but it's just really cool to me that like the day it aired for the first time, they didn't also just release it on, you know, like Warner Brothers or whoever the fuck.
Well, you say this now, but like when we'll get into this at some point on this channel, but yeah, dude, I can't wait for when it comes out in a year. And Warner Brothers is owned by Netflix. It gets a 3-day run in theaters, and filmmaking is dead once again. But
fuck Netflix.
Yeah. But yeah, to close out talking about theater experiences and like the joy of cinema as we always do, I was trying to explain this to a person we met yesterday, like, oh, well, check out the podcast. And I was like, well, because we witnessed something. And I was like, yeah, we typically like to close out talking about a theater experience that was good or bad. And she's like, oh, like people on their phone. I'm like, yeah, but that gets annoying. We're trying not to just be like, get off your phone, because that's annoying. But this is like I'll
never stop to get off your fucking phone. I'll yell at you every time.
But
shout out to Ty, my favorite enforcer of the rule.
Yeah, but this is probably like the most, and like I felt like such a influence from the WoW when this happened, because this happened, and I was like, I gotta get this for the podcast, and we were blown away. We're all standing talking about the Avatar movie with a group of our friends in the lobby. Again, like that's what cinema's about, is having those discussions. That's why we do this. But in the lobby, as we're talking about Avatar 3, it was like a bomb went off. We all looked behind us. A guy proposed to his girlfriend in the lobby of the Cineplex, and I was like, and I took a photo of it. I was like, oh my god, like we just witnessed somebody propose in front of a big like "Welcome to Cineplex" sign, and we were like, no way, and like we were like. I'm like, maybe this was their first date. Maybe the movies are magical to them. And then as we dissected what actually they took the photo beside and like where they proposed, is in front of a big cardboard cutout of like the David biblical musical,
which is making gangbusters money right now.
Zootopia 2, yeah.
Well, yeah, at least this
Box
weekend,
office.
and SpongeBob this weekend, which opened.
Yeah, because we kept thinking, because we were behind them, we're like, what did they propose in front of?
It was because their location was super, like it was literally just in the lobby.
It was out of the way
of the theater. Like,
yeah,
I said, it would have only been better if like the movie, like Avatar ended, which I guess I'm assuming they probably weren't there, evident by the other part of the story, which we'll get to quick. But I was like, if that happened in the Avatar theater, that would have been hilarious.
And especially if he like got on his knee and started speaking Na'vi, and he was like,
I see you.
And then she goes, I see you, Brent Charles or whatever.
Oh, man.
Like,
but so they do this in front of the David thing, and honestly, it was like super.
It was sweet and normal,
but no, it was like I was gonna say it was sloppy because he was on his knees, and then he got up, and again, this is where I'm like,
what happened here?
Well, was it real?
Was it real?
Because I'm like, again, it was super fucking weird. But so he moved, like, so he was on his knee and the whole thing. And genuinely, now that because we couldn't see what the poster was, like, we didn't see their background. We were too far behind. But when we moved over and could see, I genuinely think they shifted
to get the poster
for a perspective shift on that, because someone was like filming it, which you would expect to happen, but like, yeah, someone was filming it, and he moved like twice, and then like, and so it was super weird, and they all applauded, and then we were kind of like talking about it still, and then Ashley like bumped me. Well, first she goes, never do, if you
never propose at the
Cineplex, I'm gonna fucking lose my shit. But then she like was hitting me while I was talking, and I looked over, and they had like a prayer circle.
Yeah, and they were
going, and they were all holding hands, and then there was some girl like walking around them while they were doing it, like filming. Yeah. So I'm a little sus, but definitely the wackiest thing I've seen.
Yeah, it was surreal, and then
in a theater lobby, which is saying quite a lot.
And the funniest detail, and this relates back to Avatar too, Avatar 3 as well, I should say. So as this is happening, everyone's kind of cheering and applauding. She said yes. It was like, a standard public proposal, and like I was like, oh, like corny maybe, but like that's sweet. And then a dude in like a suit and earpiece, like the CIA, walks up. It's like the manager of the Cineplex, and I think he was telling them to like get out of there and like not be there.
Yeah,
and I was like, that's really weird, dude. Like, read the vibe, and you could tell like the mom of the groom or whatever was kind of like, oh, Merry Christmas to you too, like guy.
Yeah, they definitely didn't have a positive interaction.
But then after this, we were walking around to get the geography to see what was behind them and everything. We're like, oh, weird. And from the David poster, like, is that a big thing? As I'm walking around, I see like behind us, and that like where they were, there's a big like Avatar cutout wall, and it was like, this is the Cineplex area to enjoy the hype of the movies. And I'm like, there's your problem. A, it wasn't proposed in the theater, but secondly, it was like, I think the manager's like, ma'am, if you were going to do this, you should have done it in the sanctified Cineplex hype area, which was like 10 meters to our left.
Not next to the Twizzlers poster.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it wasn't like they were blocking the door of the fire lanes. Like, in fact, if anything, when we were standing there awestruck, we were blocking the concession line of like 30 people. I was like, guys, let's shift here. But yeah, we were like, wow, that was wild. So
yeah, long story short, though, propose to your significant other in the theater.
Yeah, at the end of the movie, not before, because nobody wants to hear about it.
And definitely not during.
And not during. And the lobby, honestly,
because I will bat that fucking ring out of your hand. And that shit will go, and like that'll go flying.
Honestly, the lobby wasn't a bad play. We were just mystified that like the background.
It was a super chalked location.
It was like, a little chopped.
Even if you were like excited a lot for that David movie or whatever, like I think Ashley says like it had super strong youth group vibes.
Yeah,
which is so true.
I was like, maybe they went on a date here 10 years ago and they met. Like, yeah, maybe that was it. And then they turned to me and like they look like they were 18 and they were just trying to get around.
Yeah.
know, they want to do it the right way. Anyways, I'm not even debating with all the slander. I'm like, do I put the photo I took in? But yeah, more.
I was like, Brandon, take a shot.
Yeah, take a shot.
No one will believe us.
Yeah.
No one will believe us.
I got down on my knee like a sniper.
We'll blur their faces
Yeah.
and be respectful.
I was the American sniper of content creation. I'm like, I need this for the pod. But yeah.
Couldn't believe it. But yeah, long story short, propose to your significant other. Don't listen to Ashley. If you love someone and you love the movies, there's no better place, in my opinion. Maybe just not next to the Twizzlers ad.